find a seat so that we can get started and not keep you here till 10 p.m.? I don't mind it, but I suspect some of you want to go home and are coming. I'm going to turn the mic over to the Comprehensive Planning Committee Chair, Renee Howell, and she'll take you through what the evening will look like. So thank you, Renee.
Welcome, everybody. We're really excited to have this many people here. That means that the word got out, so really great to see everyone. So when the board decided to engage in a comprehensive plan, one of the first things they did was ask people in the village who would like to be part of the committee. So tonight, one of the things I get to do here is introduce those committee members. So first, before I do that, I'll tell you a little bit about what the committee's done. One of the first things we had to do as a committee was to find a company to lead us through the comprehensive plan process. So we spent several months interviewing different companies, making sure that they would be a fit for this process with our village. And then part of our role was to communicate back and forth with Fisher as they prepared the materials for this evening. So we're very excited to have Fisher here. What I'll do before I introduce the committee is describe that. Tonight we're going to go through a presentation, and Fisher will lead us through that, some of the information they collected on the village to this point. I thought they might give us a little peek at what's being said in the survey, or they might be able to talk about that. Then we're going to break up into groups, into boards in the back that are going to allow us to collect feedback and your thoughts on what you want to see in the village. So I want to ask the committee members to stand when I call your name. So first we have Valid Mickey. Here's Valid. Ryan Vicentino. Sandra Reyes-Guerra. Lois Macri. Shannon McDonough, who could not be here tonight. And last but not least, Darrell Taylor. So very happy to have her there in that position as well. So without further ado, I'll hand this over to Fisher. Oh, sorry, Kristen Stone. I'm so sorry. I'm sure all of you know her from Broken Bow, and really, along with Madeline, who's been representative of the business community. Thank you.
All right, hi everybody. My name is Chris Kushel. I'm with Fisher Associates. Just want to first thank you all for coming out tonight. It's great to see this turnout. And also thank you to everyone for sort of welcoming us to be part of this process. So I'm here with just a couple of my colleagues. Don Netzker in the back, he's our planning director, and Simon, who's going to do the slides right now. So thanks. All right, so tonight we've done some introductions. Why are we here? It's really twofold. One is for us to give you a little bit of information, talk about what is the comprehensive plan, what's the process. So I'm going to give a little bit of a presentation, but it's actually not going to be too long. Mostly we want to hear from you. This is the opportunity, one of the first opportunities to get your feedback to help shape the plan itself. So the presentation, I'm going to have more information than I'm actually going to talk about. And the reason for that is I don't want to bore you, but also we're going to have all these slides posted, and so you can go back, and if you want to look at the information in further detail, you'll have that opportunity to. Our other colleagues that we're working with are RKG Associates. They're a Boston-based firm that does all sorts of market analyses, housing studies. We work with them quite a bit, and we're really excited to be working with them on this project as well. So I also know that this is a little bit of a blurry sort of slide presentation. We've got the resolution as best as we can, but just to reiterate what I said earlier, this will all be posted online. There's a project website, so you can go back and read it in more detail if you want to. So, how many people here, just by raising your hand, know or are familiar with the comprehensive plan? Okay, so about 2/3, I'd say. So, in a nutshell, what we're doing here, it's a comprehensive plan is a medium to long-term plan that does a few things. It sets your overall vision for the community looking forward over the next 10 to 20 years. How are you going to grow? Okay, so hold on, because the other side. So we're creating a developed, unified vision, and that's one of the reasons we have all you here tonight, is because we want this to be a community-centered plan. So we want it to be for the community, by the community. It's not Fisher Associates sitting in a room writing this plan. We're facilitating the process and getting your information, and then putting that all together in terms of the recommendations. It's creating a roadmap. So ultimately you're going to have a plan that it's going to have a land use vision for your future. It's going to have recommendations related to economic development, infrastructure needs, transportation needs, etc. And how do you get there? It helps to determine what future studies you need. So for example, often what you might say is, hey, in this area, this is what we want it to look like in the future. But then when you look at the regulations, they don't actually match that. They don't allow for that type of development. And so now we know that in the future, we have to implement some changes to, in that case, that might be your zoning code. Or you might have an area that says, hey, we have this intersection. It's a big problem here. We need to redesign it. So the comprehensive plan would make that recommendation. A future plan would then actually do that type of design work. Next slide. The other part relates to the budget. It helps you, the community, determine how do you allocate the funding that you have, and also it helps prioritize the funding that you go after for different types of grants. It helps get those grants as well, because often some of the criteria for getting grants is, well, is it in your comprehensive plan? Is it supporting it? So everything that we do, we're creating a vision, then we create goals to help meet that vision, then we create recommendations, specific recommendations that help achieve each of those goals. So everything should be flowing up to the vision ultimately. So in terms of the process, again, you'll be able to see this much clearer when you look online. This is intended to be approximately a one-year process. I find that's a little bit on the fast side for these, but it's still certainly doable. We're now, a little bit more than a third of the way through. So what we've been doing over the past several months is sort of getting our ducks in a row. So sort of twofold, kind of there's two streams here. One stream has to do with getting all of the public engagement from you all. So we've been doing a lot of preparation. We've set out an online survey. How many people have done the survey? Anybody in here? Okay, great, most of you. If you haven't done it, I'm going to ask you to go and fill that out, because we're going to keep that open for a few more weeks and hopefully get some more, people back. Hopefully we'll get some more responses there. We've been working on existing conditions, so this is kind of one of the parts of what we do is called an inventory and analysis. And there's some different schools of thoughts in terms of what level of detail, what kind of information we get, but what we believe is that this inventory and analysis should be getting the types of existing conditions and the types of data that we need that directly help support the vision and creating the recommendations. So some other places really focus on almost creating an encyclopedia of data, but that's really, in my mind, not the purpose of a comprehensive plan. There's other places to get that type of data. So we have been working on that. We'll be soon sending that to the committee to get some of their input and refine that aspect. Tonight, of course, we're having this public workshop. We're hopefully going to get a lot of great information from you all tonight. We're then going to spend some time synthesizing that information, combining that with the existing conditions data that we've been looking at, and then start to develop the vision and the goals and the recommendations, and then we'll be coming back to you to present a first draft, refine that, and then presenting it again to you all. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to just breeze through this inventory. I'm not going to go into the detail. Really what I wanted to do is just give you a sense of the types of things we've been looking at. And you can, again, come back and make your own conclusions from looking at this information later. But we look at everything from what is the land use, the associated regulations to land use, to environmental environmental aspects, transportation, infrastructure, and economic development. So if you go to the next slide, just go to that, please. So one of the things we look at is what's your demographics. I can't see all this right now because it's so blurry, but I do know that you are a highly educated community. You are also a diverse community, and your population is growing. And that's actually something that we don't see in a lot of places in New York State, but yours is actually, that's what this line is up there, that's showing how your population has grown over the past, I think, decade or so. Next slide. On the transportation side, so one of the things we look at is, well, where do you have issues? And one of the things we noticed was that the number of incidents you've had with vehicles, types of crashes, have actually been increasing. And so that is a challenge that we want to meet and address that, and we can note where the issues are, where you're seeing the most traffic challenges with crashes and whatnot, so that we can address it within the plan. Next slide. So in terms of land use, as would be expected as in most communities, most of what your community has is residential uses. That's covered by, and it's broken down into some different types of, from low density to higher density types of residential uses. Your commercial space is quite small within your community. It's less than 10%. You have a fair amount of open space in municipal uses that covers a fairly large portion of your community as well. And I want to emphasize, so this is your land use, this is your existing, this is what's there today. So if you go to the next slide, sort of a companion to land use is zoning. Now zoning is something that I think bores a lot of people, but it's actually one of the most important and strongest tools that a community has to affect change. So it's really important. So we spend a lot of time understanding, is your zoning aligned with the development that you have today that you like, and is it aligned with the type of development you want to see in the future? And I can tell you very often the answer to it is not. And so that's often a key portion of the comprehensive plan is first thinking through what do you want in the future, and then looking at how do we actually achieve that through the regulations. And so at the bottom there are all these bullets that I can't read, but that was one of the types of analysis we did called a non-conformity analysis. And so this looks at areas where your existing land use, your existing buildings are not actually conforming to what the regulations are. And that causes a whole myriad of issues, a lot of extra bureaucracy that's unnecessary for your planning board and your board of appeals. Just things like, this would say that often in these older communities you have a fairly small lots, but the minimum lot size might be much larger for some reason. It happens all the time. Or you might have building heights set at one level, but buildings are actually somewhere else. And so the idea is, if you like what you have today, we want the regulations to match that. If you want something different, we want to make sure the regulations match that. And usually it's somewhere in between for different parts of the community. So the other thing in terms of housing costs here, this is something I'm sure that is not a surprise. And we see this, of course, everywhere, that housing costs have really been rising rapidly, and that poses a lot of challenges for the community, ensuring that we have a sufficient supply of affordable housing, especially for longer-term residents who are fixed incomes, and creating that type of environment. That supports that. Next slide, please. Another thing to note is you're actually sort of closely split, but skewed towards being more renter-occupied than owner-occupied. And that, one of the things that I thought was rather interesting too was when we look at the age brackets, the seniors are actually more skewed towards renting. And so that can mean that they're more vulnerable in terms of displacement types of things. And so when we develop policies, housing policies, we want to ensure that that we take that type of thing into account. All right. Environmental issues, I think probably many of you are aware that this is an area that many parts of Tuckahoe suffer from flooding incidents. You have lots of topographic changes. You have low-lying areas. You're by the river, and so that's has been coming up as a major issue in the survey and from our interviews. And there's been other studies that are being done to help address that. So the comprehensive plan helps identify that and sort of synthesizes some of this other work that is being done. So I mentioned before we have a project website. I don't know if the QR code works when it's like this, but I'm sure you can Google it as well. And this is where we're kind of keeping a repository of different data, project updates, etc. So please visit that. It does work. Okay, thank you. And the next slide is the survey. And so again, if you haven't done this yet, please do. A lot of the questions we are asking tonight, there's some overlap, but there's also a lot of differences. So we would really love to get as many people to fill that out. It doesn't take too long. You don't even have to do every question. So please also tell your neighbors and your other friends and family that live in the neighborhood. So the rest of the evening really now is this sort of open house style, and we'll move some of the chairs so that we have more room since this is a fairly large group of us. So rather than sort of the traditional manner where I speak for too long and then we have everyone just sort of lining up to do Q&A, we're doing a more interactive style. So for people that have general comments, I'll be floating around, members of the committee will be floating around, as well as other officials and staff within the village to provide your comments if you have questions. We're happy to answer those. We also have these different sort of stations around. Some of the stations are maps. If you want to engage with the data and look a little bit more closely, you can take your time doing that. We have some general questions. So over there's one that just wants to know, a couple words. Write some words that encapsulate the vision, your vision for Tuckahoe. Again, looking forward over the next 10, 20 years. What are some of those words? Welcoming, walkable, whatever they might be that speaks to you. We'd like to have you write those on that easel. We have some questions about what kind of housing you'd like to see to meet the needs of your community. So there's some dots, there's opportunities to write on Post-it notes, and we'll have people at all of these stations to help you. We have another one where we have a big map of Tuckahoe, and these cards where you can write different challenges that you see, different opportunities, things you want to keep, and so you can write them and literally stick them on the map. So it's sort of a place-based type of exercise. And then that's community-wide. Then we're drilling down into Marbledale, because that's really kind of been coming up multiple times from the committee and from our interviews as sort of an area that needs some attention within the town, and sort of what does that want to be in the future. So we have some questions on a board, and then we have this, essentially this exercise with Legos, the Duplo. So you get to be a kid again. You can kind of work together and create a little plan where the Legos represent buildings. We have cutouts for open space and parks, and you create what you would like to see along Marbledale again in the future. So with that, I think that's the last slide. I'm going to break up. I think we have the room until about 9, so we'll turn the lights on, and looking forward to getting all your input. So thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? Do you do any comparative looking at other communities in Westchester, like density of population?
Yeah, so in terms of benchmarks, that will be to some degree part of it as it relates to the inventory analysis and some of the conclusions.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, you're right over there and just stick it on the map like that. So
describe a house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Well, let's remember.
he needs attention. Just leave it there. So you can write down on there like parks or whatever.
No, I'm just saying.
So this
Let's
is
remember our
Marble Hill
neighborhood
Road.
with
So for example, these are just
500
examples.
cars there every day, going back and forth.
Good parks, 2 trains,
Yes.
traffic lights. So you write what you want and you stick it on the map.
If you see a challenge or an opportunity or something. How are you?
There is a crosswalk. This route needs a crosswalk.